Let's talk about D-Hop. So he's got 2 years left on his contract. He did tell Pat McAfee that he wants to be flexible on those years, or he's willing to be flexible on those years. He hired an agent again, which he hasn't had for the last couple of years. So it's clear that he's looking for a new contract. Any ideas on where you think he's going to go?
You want to start, Katie? Or you want me to start?
You start.
This isn't going to happen either, but that's why it's called bold predictions. It sounds like everybody Tom out of New England. NBC, where is he, Breech? Brinson, NBC where?
Tom Curran?
Yeah, NBC.
Yeah, NBC.
Austin or whatever.
Yeah, NBC New England. Yeah, what is it? He's with NBC. Tom
Curran. Right, I wanted to give him his due. Anyway, he's been covering the Patriots for 1,000 years, incredibly smart. He said this is probably a long shot, and I'm sort of giving away the secret here, but Patriots get DeAndre Hopkins. We know that Bill Belichick has a history of going after guys. DeAndre's not on the downside of his career, but veteran guys who, for one reason or another, aren't working out with their current teams. Randy Moss is the most obvious example. Corey Dillon, Breech's Corey Dillon, went there and won a Super Bowl back in the day. Albert Haynesworth was there for a minute. That didn't work out. Chad Johnson was there. Ocho Cinco was there for a minute. That didn't work out, although he did get to a Super Bowl too. I don't think they won it. That was the Giants Super Bowl, the second one. So DeAndre Hopkins comes in, and Breech, you bring him in for one reason and one reason only, to revitalize, bring back to life, resuscitate McCorkle Jones, future Hall of Famer.
Woo, man, I don't. Are McCorkle Jones and DeAndre going to get along? Is that offense going to work with DeAndre Hopkins not getting the touches he wants? I mean, I don't hate it because the Patriots, as you just dissected, have been willing to bring in these older veterans who have a lot of talent left, who have gas left in the tank, and can completely revitalize things. But it just seems like a big move for the Patriots to make, considering where they are. I just think they have a few other issues. So Ryan, I'm going to give your grade. Are we grading? Can I grade you? I'm going to give you a
Before
B-.
you grade, let me throw this in. I do deserve a grade. This is going to hurt my grade, but I want you to respond to this. What do you think the first thing DeAndre Hopkins says to Bill O'Brien after Bill O'Brien had traded him to Arizona for a bag of footballs?
He writes him a check for 10% of that money and says, "Thanks for getting me the second biggest contract for a receiver in NFL history."
All right, so that was my grade.
He did get a monster contract when he went to Arizona. Yeah, the Bill O'Brien thing might be a little bit of a not a cog. No, what would be a
obstacle?
I'm trying to figure something with a wheel. You'd still like
hitch in your giddy up.
A stick in the spoke, so to speak.
Yeah, but to Breech's point, he did get paid in Arizona. What's my grade, Breech?
A B+ now.
Yes. There we go.
A B+. All right. Well, grade mine then, because I think that D-Hop gets traded to the Baltimore Ravens. So with the way things are looking right now, and Brinson wrote a great article on this, it seems to me that Lamar Jackson is staying in Baltimore. That's the most likely scenario. So what do they need? Well, they need an elite receiver in the worst way to support him. D-Hop would be a massive upgrade from Demarcus Robinson, who's currently their wide receiver 1. I read a stat that the Ravens haven't had a 1,000+ yard wide receiver since Mike Wallace in 2016. Now, of course, D-Hop is 31 years old, and he was suspended for 6 games or 9 games or whatever it was last season for the PEDs. But it does seem that Arizona is looking to rebuild. They fired their head coach, general manager, parted ways. JJ Watt retired. And the teams are friendly. They did negotiate Hollywood Brown's deal last season. So I feel like D-Hop would be good for the Ravens. And they do have draft picks. They've got a 1st, a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, and a 6th in 2020. Now, he's not going to be a first rounder, but I could see maybe some kind of package for him.
Well, they traded Hollywood Brown last year, and that didn't make Lamar very happy. And then Eric DeCosta, the GM, said that they would like to get better at drafting wide receivers. That didn't make Rashad Bateman very happy. All that said, Dre Hopkins would be a huge upgrade. The only issue is you got to make sure Lamar's coming back, because if you trade for Dre Hopkins and then you don't have a quarterback, I guess you get the 2 first-round picks and you can sort that out, but you're in a bad way if you're trying to roll forward without the other MVP.
This is based on Lamar Jackson staying with the Ravens.
I like it. I think it makes a ton of sense because the wide receivers, as you've noted, Katie, have not been great. No disrespect to Rashad Bateman.
And it tells Lamar that you're serious about winning when he's been spending the past 4 or 5 years wondering, hey, you guys going to bring a receiver in at all instead of just trading them away? I could use some help here. I give this a B+ too. What do you think, Brinson?
Yeah, you know what? This is look, this is the first time Katie's been graded on the show. You guys are rude. I'm going to give her an A minus.
Hey, no, it's okay.
I love it.
Yeah, no, an A minus is good. You got two B plus, two B plus, and A minus. It's very good.
2 B plus is A minus. I love it.
Yeah, that's more than I made my entire college career. I would say that I'm going to throw out a team that I don't even know like how this exactly would work, but I think it's kind of interesting. What about the Chiefs?
Ooh,
Like you put a guy. I mean, like I know they got rid of Tyreek Hill and they morphed it and they won the Super Bowl morphing into this entirely different offense. But like, if you toss Nuke Hopkins into an offense with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, like.
Yeah, but to Breech's point about the Patriots and DeAndre Hopkins, is he going to want to be in a team where Travis Kelce gets 85% of the targets?
I don't know, man. I think like if you're making enough money, I think if you're winning, it's cool. Like it's a lot easier to deal with it if you're winning, you know? So yeah, I'm not saying it's guaranteed that he's going to be down for that, but like.
Okay.
And I'll say Hopkins to the Giants.
Hopkins to the Giants. Also worth noting that
Hopkins to the Giants.
His PED suspension, actually, he had a full no trade clause, and that suspension voided his no trade clause. So that's probably why he's a little more amenable to reworking his contract and these ideas that he could be traded. Otherwise, he'd be like, nah, I'm hanging here and getting that cash.
Well, that's another thing is he hired an agent again, which he hasn't had for the last 2 years. And that's something that Lamar Jackson doesn't have right now. What do you guys think of players not having agents? Is it a smart thing to do, or do you think it actually hinders them?
I'll just say what Lance Zierlein said, who does radio in Houston, and his dad was in the league for a long time as an assistant coach, and he works for NFL Network in terms of their draft coverage. Has a great podcast as well.
No, he's a friend of the podcast.
He told me he changed his profile on that.
He changed his status on Facebook.
He's appeared on the
complicated
podcast.
With 6'6".
He doesn't have a choice. He's appeared on the podcast. He doesn't have a choice.
But he made this point on Twitter, and I think it's a great point. Whatever. If you don't want an agent, that's one thing. But Lamar has missed out on all this marketing money, all this free local ad money. Like it's literally free money to say that, you know, you're going to represent the local car dealership or whatever, or you're going to be a Gatorade guy or a Nike guy or whatever. Primarily, I would imagine because he doesn't have time to sort through all that stuff. That's why you have an agent. And the other thing that I've been talking about when I get asked about this, the whole Lamar thing, and Lamar, if he wants to ask for $500 million guaranteed, that is his right. And especially when you look at how bad Deshaun Watson was, and he's like, I'm better than that guy. The problem is, and we all know this, when you do contracts, you start taking things personally when you're in the room and your bosses are calling you out for sucking at certain parts of your job, which is what the Ravens have to do when they're negotiating with agents. And agents have a more sterile viewpoint about their clients than the client does. And I get it. I would be angry too if I were Lamar and they're like, well, man, you got hurt and you don't win playoff games, so we're not giving you so-and-so money. If that would happen to be a conversation, he probably took that personally. I just think it's worth, especially when you're one of the best players on planet Earth, it's worth it to have an agent to handle all that stuff. And then the marketing stuff will pay for your agent.
I heard another friend of the podcast, Scott Pioli, former
He also said he's out on the pod, but go ahead.
That's just fine. Everybody can be out.
Everybody hates the pod now? What's happening?
I don't know. No, Brinson sucks, I think is what's happening.
They're friends with
Y'all need the hat.
But Pioli pointed out that Teddy Bruschi at one point had no agent when he was negotiating New England, and he was like, it was tough because this is after they've won Super Bowls, and he came back from he had a big health issue, and it's like Pioli was like, you have to be cognizant that you are to Wilson's point, you're like you're saying things that could come off as personal. But it is just business. But that's difficult. Like Lamar might be like, here's what I want. And the Ravens are like, well, no, we have to negotiate. And he's like, I don't really have time to negotiate. Like, this is just what I want. And that just makes it incredibly tough to do business in the NFL.
Well, and agents are incentivized and agents have relationships with all of these organizations, which he doesn't have. I mean, I have an agent. I'm sure you guys do too. And it's one of those things where, you will.
I represent Breech and Breech represents me. It's a weird thing.
And I get it. You don't want to pay someone and you think you could do it by yourself. But the reality is 9 times out of 10, you can't do it by yourself, or you're not going to get as good of deal as you could possibly get. And, I'm as much as, I don't love writing a check every single month. I am where I am because of my agents put me there. So I think it is.
Your agent got you here. This is where your agent got you. Is here.
Wow. No.
I guess I'm here too.
Podcast with CBS.
Roasted.
Hey, Katie.
But in all seriousness, like if Lamar Jackson has an agent, he's on a long-term deal right now. There is no chance that he is playing on the franchise tag and having to worry about this stuff. He is pocketing hundreds of millions of dollars, and he is maybe even hosting the Pick Six podcast.
Katie, I have it on good authority that Lamar Jackson is actually your agent, which explains why you are, in fact, here right now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's Lamar Jackson's mom. He's also, she's also my agent
right.
as well. And congratulations to everyone.